Well, here's the harvest from that single pepper plant, and I would say we still have another 8 or 10 peppers on here.
Guten Yardening, everybody. If I'm being 100% honest, I have to say that time has really passed us by quickly this summer, to a point where even as I'm recording this right now here in Zone 5, Wisconsin, it is the first day of fall. Now, I'm not going to release the video today, so you'll see this a few days after that, but the temperatures are cooling off. It absolutely feels like fall out here, and I love that time of year for many reasons, but I am going to miss a lot of our summer garden. Now, we're still getting really good production. In today's video, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to harvest a whole bunch of peppers that we have out here, and I'm also going to talk you through some of the tastes and some of the things that we've noticed about our peppers this year and how we're going to be using them. Because one of the things that I know people get frustrated by about peppers is you wait all season, they finally come in, and then it seems like they all ripen at the same time. And if, like us, you like to wait until they're all the way ripe, well, it can seem like there's just so many at the same time. You need to have a plan in place as to how you're going to use them. Last year's big pepper harvest yielded some great colors and some great tastes, and I think this year is going to be just the same. So let's get started by harvesting some of our California Wonder bell peppers.
Now, this California Wonder has been a fantastic producer for us this year. One of our viewers even referred to this as sort of a gold standard in bell pepper, and our production here in this second year plant has been wonderful. Earlier this season, we talked about some of the benefits of overwintering peppers, and this plant has not disappointed. In fact, it's just been an absolute continual harvest from inside of here. There are peppers everywhere. Now, one of the things you're going to notice, and it's just a little bit of the soilless mix here, one of the things you're going to notice about some of these peppers, if you're growing them, if you leave them on just a little bit too long, they get old and they start to get wrinkly. You can see some of those wrinkles here. That's a matter of age. We left this on a little bit too long. You know, it also probably dried out a little bit here on the plant. We needed to maybe water this a little bit more, but it got a little bit older. So it's better to harvest them right after they turn red. At least that's what we've found. And then you don't have to deal with the wrinkly spot. But this is still perfectly edible. Look down inside of here. I've already harvested half a dozen peppers, and they're just loaded in this plant, to a point where if we didn't have a plan for these after harvesting, what we'd potentially have would be a lot of food waste, well, just our peppers being lost in general. But take a look at all these amazing peppers that I'm pulling off here, one after the other after the other. I mean, this plant has been so successful for us this year that there's no wonder that we're actively collecting seeds from every single one of these that we use to make sure we can grow more and more over the winter and into next season. Now, even though the weather is cooling off, we still have a few more on here that are ripening up. And you got to remember this about this California Wonder. It does turn black before it turns red. So you can see that process sort of midway for some of these, but we've still got more peppers on here still coming in even as the weather gets cooler. Well, here's the harvest from that single pepper plant, and I would say just from my count, we still have another 8 or 10 peppers on here that are going to still ripen up, and we've harvested at least this many off of here already. Now, the next pepper I'm going to harvest out here, it's the only one left on here for now because we've been harvesting off of this. This is our Purple Beauty. It's a really nice dark bell pepper. It's actually a little bit smaller. Here, I'll give a comparison between our California Wonder and our Purple Beauty. You can see that even on average, this is going to be a smaller one. Now, in terms of the difference and my preference between the two of these peppers, I'm not actually sure which one I prefer more. What I can say is that this one is super sweet. The California Wonder is really nice and sweet, and this one has a nice sweet texture as well, but this one seems to have, and this was pointed out by one of our commenters as well on our earlier video, this one seems to have thicker walls. And so the texture is slightly different, but they're both fantastic. This one, a little bit smaller, but that beautiful color that adds really a lot to just about any dish. Now, this is a gift red pepper. This was given to us a couple of years ago as a replacement plant by one of our local organic gardens. And it's been fantastic. We did make a mistake though in not writing down the variety. So if you know or you think you know the variety of this pepper, you can leave it for us in the comments. We'd really appreciate that. What I can tell you about this pepper though is that it is also, like the rest of our bell peppers, a really nice sweet taste. We've most frequently used this in cooked dishes like our salmon. Just on top, it adds a great flavor. So the question remains, what do we do with all of these peppers as we're harvesting them? And I can tell you that in previous years, one of the things we've done And I'm going to cut this one down even though it's a little bit early. One of the things we've done is we've taken these, we've cut them in half and then removed the seeds and saved them, cut them into strips in half again the other way, and then put them into storage bags into the freezer. And they make great additions to a lot of meals. But this year, as I come over here to our compost bin and start harvesting, this year our plans are different for a lot of these because we recently watched a video from that 1870s Homestead about using their peppers to make something called potatoes O'Brien. Now, if you've never made potatoes O'Brien before, when we saw that recipe, it looked so fantastic.
Now, if you've been following our channel recently, or even over the past year plus that we've been producing content, you'll know that we love our potatoes, and we've been doing quite a few potato harvests. If you haven't seen those videos, you should go back and check them out because we've had some really nice results so far, and we have quite a few harvests still to come. Now, one of the things we've been thinking about is because we don't have a root cellar in our house, we don't have the best way to preserve our potatoes long term. Certainly we can, and I know there are other methods out there, but so one of the ways we've been talking about preserving our potatoes is to cut them up and freeze them using the potatoes O'Brien recipe, and therefore we could use these peppers to help preserve our potato crop.
One thing's for sure, I'm not going to let any of these seeds go to waste because our peppers did really well this year and I want to preserve that into the next season. Now this little pepper growing in this container right here just produced these 2 peppers, and well, we have some disappointment here. It looks like there's some sort of disease. This got opened up and exposed to the elements, and well, it's not looking so hot. This one I took off before that could happen. It hadn't really ripened up the whole way, but you can see inside of here that even though we had some problems outside, there are some great seeds tucked away inside that we're going to be able to save. I'm going to interrupt this video really quickly to show you something that I think is really cool. We were cutting open this red pepper from our harvest, and when we got to the top, you can sort of see things looked a little bit odd. And as I open this up, you can see there appears to be basically a baby pepper in here. And this is actually a fairly common phenomenon in bell peppers. What we have here is known as internal proliferation. Basically, this is a little clone of this plant. Another word for this is a parthenocarpy, which is basically just a fruit that forms without any fertilization. So if you see this inside of your peppers, wonder no more what it is. And sometimes actually it'll look even more like a miniature pepper than this one does. This is perfectly edible, and so that's just what we're gonna do. I don't think I'm all that easily distracted from a nice harvest, but these fall-bearing heritage red raspberries, they can be a little bit distracting sometimes. Well, I ended up harvesting this one a little bit earlier than I intended to. You can see this is a nice yellow pepper. Take a look at that color. Still got some green on the backside, but still really tasty. And you can see, hopefully, as I look off to the side here, that there are more peppers out here. These are almost ripe. And really, almost every single plant has more peppers that'll be ready, I think, before the weather gets too cold. You know, I've noticed sometimes these dark peppers hide from us a little bit. Take a look at these purple beauties down in here. These are actually a little bit bigger, I think, than the one growing out front even.
Well, as I sit here in front of a couple of our green stalk vertical gardens, and you can see the wonderful fall vegetables growing right behind me, I have to reflect a little bit on this harvest because we've harvested enough now that we can do basically whatever we need to. We can eat fresh, we can freeze, and we can use them for recipes, even our potato recipes that we're going to use to preserve our potatoes. Now, if you haven't already seen or don't know how to make potatoes O'Brien, we highly recommend you go onto YouTube and search Potatoes O'Brien, that 1870s channel, and I think you'll find, like we did, that the recipe looks fantastic. But take a look at this harvest. It took maybe 5 or 10 minutes to gather all these peppers, and there are still peppers that are going to ripen, I think, before the weather gets too cold. So if you have a ton of peppers that are ripe at the same time, don't be discouraged at all. Just come up with a plan for how you're going to use them because they preserve quite well. Well, we hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.